Basketball season won't be around forever, so get in on all of the action now with DraftKings, the leader in one-day fantasy sports. DraftKings is giving new players a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Claim your free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes when using code THPN during sign-up.
Playing daily fantasy basketball is simple. Just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition. Feel the sweat like never before. Every dunk, steal, assist means so much with the DraftKings daily fantasy lineup. Baseball fans, you might have missed out on a season-long fantasy, so now is the time to get in on all the daily fantasy action where DraftKings has even more ways to make it rain. With DraftKings, payday comes every day for players, so what are you waiting for? Head to the app now.
That's right. Download the DraftKings app now and use code THPN during sign-up. This week, DraftKings is putting you in the action with a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. That's code THPN, and you can get a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes only at DraftKings. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
I was walking through the halls of a Minnesota rink when along came a Wild fan who started talking smack to me. He said, I bet you never liked the Blues until they won a cup. And so I calmly turned to him and said, hey man, listen up. I admit it's pretty great to win Lord Stanley's prize, but listen, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues. I know Jackman, Johnson, Eastwood, Backman, Waite, Walt, Hanzus, Nash, Drake, Jansen, Boys Young, Jammer King, Salvador, Correa, Brewer, Lowe, Pollock, Finley, Turksania, Buganecki, Jay McKee, McDonald, Mellon, Buchanan, Kavanaugh, Mason, Manny, Stillman, Stepniak, McClement. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in year 52, man. So give me a Let's Go Blues.
And now, the starting lineup for your Bluenotes podcast. Tom Franklin and the man called Wags.
And Blues Fan Reacts, also known as Mason. Hello and welcome to Blue Notes. We are on the greatest city on the Mississippi, the greatest town in the Midwest. We've got that Stanley Cup fever. Not Stanley Cup fever. We got that Stanley Cup fever. I don't know. It's Tom's thing. I don't get it.
Power.
Power. Too sweet to be sour. And if you don't know what we're talking about St. Louis. And boy, oh boy, are we glad to be talking about St. Louis Blues hockey tonight, Mason, because we had a pretty damn good St. Louis Blues game this afternoon. Didn't start off so great, but it was a pretty good finish. And it was all the result of our massive, amazing, wonderful captain, Mr. Ryan O'Reilly, who basically just said, fuck it, I'm doing it myself. Mason, how you doing today, and how about that win?
Doing okay. Not quite sure what to make of that win because... Hello? Paging the St. Louis Blues? Who the fuck was that? It wasn't us. It couldn't have been us because the Blues would fall apart in the second period and let them score 20 goals and would go down 2-0 early, except not come back. They'd just straight up lose the game. I mean, it's a welcome change for sure, but okay. And we scored, this game had everything. It had a 5-on-3 power play goal, which literally hasn't been scored since 2016.
4 years? 4, 5, almost 5 years?
5 years.
Unbelievable. And, it's like you said, what can you make of this? Because it is one game. The Avalanche have dominated us the last 6 games. We just haven't looked all that great. Now, granted, the last time we played Colorado, we got down early. They put a furious comeback in. They almost tied that game up. So you can almost sit there and say maybe you saw the seeds of this a little bit, that they could actually play with Colorado. But then to have the Avalanche just jump out to a 2-0 lead less than 5 minutes into that game, and the way they went about it, too. I mean, Landeskog being absolutely wide the fuck open in front of the net. I don't know what to say about that, but I will say this. on the replay, if you watch that replay, once the goal scored, you saw Ryan O'Reilly turn around, and on national TV, you just saw him mouth "fuck." And now that you look back on it, 7 minutes or so into the game, that was the moment where I think Ryan O'Reilly just essentially broke and said, "Look, if no one else is going to do this shit, I'm going to do it myself." And he absolutely took over that game. So it didn't start off great, but maybe we'll see that this might be a changing point for the Blues.
Ryan O'Reilly put this team on his freaking back this entire game. He did exactly what you said. You guys aren't going to do it. Fine. I'll do it myself. And he scores 2 highlight reel goals. Just absolutely. That first one, I don't know who he was passing to. That was pretty lucky. But that, oh my God, highlight reel level shit, from Ryan O'Reilly. Well deserved to have the captaincy badge right now. I mean, you look at the Blues and the complete loss of leadership that we've had this offseason, and you're kind of wondering, like, we all knew that Ryan O'Reilly could be this, but what took so long?
It's a great question, but I mean, I also look at it and sit there and think, okay, for so long, this was Alex Petrangelo's team. For so long, this was Alexander Steen's team. That I think Ryan O'Reilly just needed to find his voice and to find what worked for him to lead this team. I don't think that this team didn't respect him or didn't want to follow his lead. I don't think that was it at all. It was really more so about him finding his voice and finding his leadership style. And unfortunately it did. It took a little longer. And I think the big part of that is the fact that you had such a short off season as far as training camp's concerned. 2 weeks of training camp. You don't have the time to blood, sweat, tears through the preseason to really find yourself as a team. You had 2 weeks where some of those guys weren't even there. And now we're starting to see the seeds of that as we see Tom Franklin joining us on the lake.
Trouble.
On the lake, like seriously, like if I tilt this a little lower, I mean it'll spoil the image that I'm actually like on top of the lake, which is not true. But yeah, I'm on a deck.
Jealous. I'm jealous as hell right now. I could use a nice relaxation because I mean I'm just so mentally drained after that damn game.
Well, look,
I didn't even watch it because I hate NBC. I hate their broadcasting crew. So
yeah,
I listened to it. Yes, I listened. He single-handedly ruined that for me. But I looked at I only had to listen to this game. I listened to this game because of that, and I still was going through like emotional highs and lows like I was watching it. Chris Kerber does a great job of that.
He really does. I got to listen to his call during the third period. I had something kind of come up, which is why I'm here alongside the lake here. Everything's okay. Nothing really bad or anything. But yeah, it was. I'm with you, Mason. Blues games. You never can fully buy in to what you're seeing on the screen if they're playing well because you just know heartache is always around the corner. And thankfully today, yes, the second period was rough because that's Blues hockey and that's how they work. But besides that, I mean, I was encouraged by how they were playing, especially Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, he's the captain of the team. He is the guy that needs to step up and lead when your team needs leadership. And damn if he didn't do that today. I mean, working, to get the puck off of McKinnon in the corners and then just flicking it on net. And yes, he got some luck. It was a kind of a lucky goal, but you need that in hockey sometimes. Yeah. And, to me, the biggest thing of that goal wasn't so much the hard work that, O'Reilly did, which was huge, or the fact that he got lucky scoring that goal by banking it off the defenseman. It was the look on his face afterwards. He wasn't celebrating. But yet he had like that, to use a old term, the eye of the tiger, right afterwards. Like this was him saying, "Come on, guys, let's fucking go." I'm gonna put this team on my back and hop on or get the fuck off. And right. And the team responded. I mean, it was this is the best team probably in hockey right now, Colorado, arguably. And they got a big win when they were coming off a bad juju. I mean, it's. I felt like celebrating alongside the lake here, for instance. I mean, just yeah. I saw your porch video a couple games ago, Mason, and I was like, you know what? I know a guy that has a pretty nice porch, my dad. So here we are.
And I just need to cut in real quick, just so you know, we have reached our allocation of fucks on the Facebook stream. We're already at 9, so
we're at 9.
Be careful.
We're at 9 right now. Really? Someone,
Yeah, we dropped a few before you came on.
Oh, very nice. I think we were all expecting to drop like all the fucks today because of the way they were playing. In fact, the graphic that I made for this episode was made last night when it looked like all hope was lost. And, we still are kind of wondering where Tarasenko is on offense. But, I mean, I did watch him in the defensive zone, and it's, he looked good in the defensive zone. I mean, he was back checking. He was getting into shooting lanes. He was, right in front of Binnington, very active. And, he's never going to be a Selke guy. He's never going to be a Ryan O'Reilly guy. But you at least prefer seeing that as opposed to the Tarasenko we saw the other night, who was stapled to the boards and wouldn't get out of the corner. He might as well, he was so far away from the plate. He might as well have been in Yaroslavl back in Russia. It was so bad. Yeah.
The one thing about the Ryan O'Reilly, how he has stepped up, and his, like you said, he didn't celebrate after the 2 goals. He had that let's fucking go kind of confident aura about him. He had the exact same aura that Logan Couture had 2 years ago against Vegas in Game 7. He had that. Once they got that first goal, Logan Couture's like, that's 1. They got the second, that's 2. That's 3. Keep up the momentum. And that's that very few players in this league I can think of. Ryan O'Reilly, Logan Couture, Sidney Crosby, Alexander Ovechkin. Those are the only 4 captains that I can think of that can properly express that aura like Ryan O'Reilly did. So,
well, and look at what he did on his 3rd goal of the night. He wasn't looking to score into the empty net. His first mindset was, okay, let me just get around the player, chip it off the boards. Oh, look, it came back to me. I put it in the net for the game or for the empty net goal. That's just his workmanship attitude and the hard work. Hard work. That's all he does. Before practice, after practice, during practice, in games. He's just a workhorse. And going back to his first goal, that was a workman-like effort. It wasn't, he didn't get the stick lift on McKinnon first off or right away, but he made McKinnon feel him there. And then he get the stick lift, works hard. Yeah, he loses the puck to McKinnon, but it doesn't get out. He still keeps hustling, slides it between the defender's stick, then tries to dish it off to Thomas, but it hits Devon Taye's stick. And for some reason, Devon Taye shoots it on his own goal. Let's not talk about that. But that's the whole point of Ryan O'Reilly. Hard work does pay off. And yes, you can sit there and bitch and moan all you want about having to work hard, but you're gonna get rewarded for it. And that's what happened with Ryan O'Reilly. And then the second goal, I've talked many a times about how great Devan Dubnyk has been against the Blues. He has had a good record against the Blues. He's played well against the Blues, but as of late, he has not looked great. That goal, number 2, I don't know where he was going. I mean, I know he was anticipating the pass, but holy shit, the amount of space he left Ryan O'Reilly.
It's the National Hockey League.
Come on.
This is the terrible. National Hockey League, Devin.
Devan Dubnyk is barely NHL quality at this point. He is so bad. And I don't know why teams keep throwing money at him, at least the amounts that they do, because he's awful. And you know what? He's usually awful against the Blues, so it was like when I saw that he was starting, I was like, okay, we might have a chance. Because it's Dubnyk and we torch Dubnyk every single time. It's a beautiful thing to see.
And going back to what you were talking about a little bit earlier, Tom, about, not like if you watch the Blues, it tells one story versus listening to the Blues. I was watching the end of the first period, and this was after the 3-goal push, and they're up 3-2, and you're like, okay, I feel good. They're playing well. But then the last minute and a half of that period was typical Blues fashion. I mean, just wide open guys, posts, the snow angel by Binnington to at least keep the puck out. And then the last 7 seconds, you're sitting there going, okay, Avalanche had the puck in their own zone. They're just going to kind of bring it. No, they get 2 quality scoring chances and barely miss tying that game up before the period's over. It gave you flashbacks and PTSD to what was going to happen against the Avalanche in that second period. Thankfully, they only allowed 1 goal in the second, but they have a negative 19 goal differential in the second period right now.
Yeah, it's bad. And, it wasn't even just the second period, though. There were a few times where they let the Avalanche players just have their way in the offensive zone. Even Pierre Maguire, blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. He pointed, he said something to the effect of there was no restriction.
No coverage.
No coverage. No coverage. And that was true when Makar made that wraparound, which, by the way, Cole Makar, he is going to be a top 5 NHL defenseman for at least the next 15 years. He is that freaking good. So obviously, you know, credit needs to go to a car, but at the same time, though, like he found that opening to do that, wraparound because there was nothing stopping him from going behind the net to do so. You know, and there was another opportunity where I think it was Taves and Sod that were like right in front of Binnington's grill, and there was not a Blues defender around. And then that play that you mentioned in the second period, they need to, I understand that part of the Blues issue in recent years is, you know, they haven't had the, you know, wealth of puck moving defensemen in the past. I feel they've overcompensated for that big time. Like they need to find themselves a people mover, you know, this offseason. And I think there still will be changes this offseason, even if the Blues make the playoffs, you know, or not. This is not the team, or excuse me, this is not the place you built this team to be in. You know, you spend all this money to re-up, you know, Braden Shen. You give Binnington a lot of money. You get Torrey Krug a lot of money. Justin Falk a lot of money. You don't give those guys these big contracts, deplete your farm system so you can barely finish 4th in a division. Changes still need to be made this offseason. And what they are, obviously, Doug Armstrong, he is a magician. At times, he can make some maddening moves on you as well. But one thing is for certain with Doug Armstrong, you'll never know what's coming until it actually happens, because he never tips off. He didn't tip off the media on O'Reilly. He didn't tip off the media on Braden Shen. He didn't tip off the media on Torrey Krug, and he didn't tip off the media on Justin Falk either. So trust the process, I guess, as they say. Right. But yeah, the wide open looks were definitely concerning. I mean, and of course, look, the Avs are good. The Avs are very good. This is a team that looks, you know, even though they lost today, they look very much in sync on offense, and you know they know the spots to get to, and you know you're going to have a hard time stopping that, you know, by itself. But there are definitely areas they can improve on.
So, that being said, you look at this, and if the Blues get into the playoffs, this is potentially their matchup is against Colorado. And I think you may have put out something earlier this week about do you think the Blues can beat Colorado, or how many games can the Blues take against Colorado if they play them in a 7-game series? This is just one game, but we've also seen a little bit of how they played the last couple of games against Colorado. It's a far cry from that 8-0 loss they had the second game of the season. Yep. Does this team actually legitimately have a chance of pushing Colorado to the brink, if not beating them in a 7-game series? Because I mean, I think they kind of do. Everything kind of has to fall into place. But this team thrives as an underdog. We've seen it the past few years. They tend to win games where they're not even slated to even compete. Do they have a shot at beating a Colorado team in the playoffs if it comes down to it?
Go for it, Tom.
I was going to say, we kind of talked about this a little bit with Corey, and for one, Arizona is not confident about, or at least their fans aren't confident about pushing the Avalanche to the brink.
Understandable.
They're in the same boat we are, you know, in a lot of ways. At least Corey Crenshaw is. You know, I think I said maybe one game, you know, maybe game 6 at the most. Even though they won today, I mean, look, it's one win against how many losses against the Avs this year? I mean, yes, I think they're capable of at least getting to game 6. I still am not confident enough to say they'll get to game 7. There's still this team's still got issue, you know, and one of those issues is Parayko. I mean, Parayko was taken out of the game. He might be out again, which I know it hurts. It hurts. I mean, even though he was not 100% since he came back, I mean, he's still a presence out there, and a presence that the Blues needed. I mean, he even at 80 or 70% or however much he was, I mean, I still appreciated having him out there. Mm-hmm. But if there's no Parayko, there's going to be a huge issue there against the Avs.
Definitely. Well, the other thing about that is, like I've said before, I'm fairly confident in a game 6, not in a game 7, but I'm fairly confident it can go to 6 games. But you know, I expect 5, but I'm confident. I think that the Blues can pull one. I think the Blues can if we think about it, if we really break it down, I think the Blues could get a solid win in a 6-game series, and I think they can get a lucky win, a game where the Avs just don't play well, so that's what I think. That's my logic behind a game 6. If not, I mean, looking at the Colorado Avalanche right now, a lot of people have a hard time believing they're ever going to have an off game. I mean, even this one, they did not have an off game. Colorado played really well. I don't know if you guys saw like the deserve a win meter. If you guys have heard of that,
yeah.
Colorado had an 85% deserve to win out of 500 simulations. So this was, this wasn't like a one-off for the Avs. They played great, and honestly, they did deserve to win. But the Blues just, the Blues never gave up.
And here's another problem too. If you're looking at a series with the Avalanche, the Blues record, and I don't have it in front of me, obviously. I'm sitting by a lake, for God's sakes. There's, and my dad doesn't have Wi-Fi. But the Blues record against Colorado in Denver the last couple of years has been atrocious. And especially Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington has issues in Denver. It's I can't explain them, but he never seems to play well against the Avs in Denver. And of course, the Avs are going to have home ice. They'll have at least 4 games. So if the Blues are road warriors, like they were in the 2019 Stanley Cup, they're going to have to figure out how to break the bad juju in Colorado and get some wins in Colorado. Because as we know, the Blues at home during the playoffs can be, about a 500 team. So it's that's going to be a huge thing that they have to overcome. But you know what? I feel teams, to get to the promised land, to get to glory, if you will, they have to beat some demons to get there. Like, I know for the longest time the Blackhawks were the Blues demons, especially like in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Troy Brouwer gets that game-winning goal in Game 7. Demon slayed. San Jose, the Blues in San Jose have some bad, memories, of the playoffs, especially the President's Trophy year. But just again, the Blues and California teams just don't mix. They beat San Jose in the Western Conference Finals to make it to the finals. So it just, they have to. It's just there is no easy path to the Stanley Cup, and the Blues will need to overcome not just themselves, but maybe just some, as I said, bad juju if they're going to win over the Avalanche in the playoffs, which I feel weird saying because I don't think that's going to happen.
It's going to be hard pressed for them to actually win a series if they're currently constructed. I mean, you talk about losing Parayko after the first period. I think Dunn actually exited the game as well, and he's going to be reevaluated tomorrow as well. So you're potentially down 2 defensemen. You did get a guy in Robert Thomas back into the lineup, though, and that's a good sight to see. He had a decent game. He's a -1. He had a giveaway. He was 50% on the faceoff dot. So an okay game coming back, but it felt like a different energy when he was on the ice. You heard his name a lot more in the offensive zone. He was carrying the puck a lot more. Now, granted, he still needs to fucking shoot the puck, but you're hearing his name in the offensive zone, which means the puck is on his stick and he's making plays. I've talked in the past about how this team is wildly different when Jaden Schwartz is out. Can we say the same thing about when Robert Thomas is out? Now that he's back, having a Schwartz and Thomas combination, this is a different team. And maybe that's another piece that allows this team to kind of go on a little bit of a run here before the playoffs start.
Right.
Well,
Go ahead, Nathan. Okay. Yeah. The thing about Robert Thomas and Jaden Schwartz is when Jaden Schwartz is on the ice, the Blues play confident. When Robert Thomas is on the ice, they play like playmakers because they get wide open. They get open in places where maybe, it's a little harder for other players to get, because people know that Robert Thomas is going to find the puck on your stick. He just has a way with the puck where he can pass it at ridiculous areas. So they give off 2 different auras to the team whenever they're on the ice. But yeah, in general, you can say that Robert Thomas does bring an effect, whenever he's on the ice.
It's so easy to forget the effect that Robert Thomas does have, though, because he's been out for so long, and it's I had to be reminded, by looking at my Robert Thomas jersey, and Wags, you can look at yours as well, and it suddenly is like, oh, wait a second, I got this jersey for a reason over other players. Why did I do that? Well, it's because he is such a special player and he's such a special talent. Yes, he needs to shoot the fucking puck. We should get that on a shirt. Robert, shoot the fucking puck.
Shoot the fucking puck.
Or hashtag shoot the fucking puck. So, he needs that seriously. He's got a good shot. I mean, he almost got the game winner in Dallas in 2019, in game 7. It just planked off the post, and luckily Pat was there. But, since he's come back and today today was kind of like, he was showing us why we got those Robert Thomas jerseys. He was showing us why we were raving about him for so long, and that he's just such a special talent. You're right. He does bring a different energy out there on the ice. He's an expert stick handler, great playmaker, and yes, he still needs to, shake off the rust a little bit. I mean, when you're out as long as he is, and unfortunately he was out again for just a little bit because of another injury. You're gonna need a couple games to get back into it, but if he can be the spark that the Blues need on offense, like I wonder if he's looking good out there, if you pair him up with Tarasenko to get him going, as well. I mean, the idea is, when you shake up your pairings, I mean, yeah, we can joke about him, about how Craig Berube just throws him in a cocktail shaker or blender and then, just splashes them out and takes however they lie. I mean, the Lions the past couple games have been kind of weird, but there is a reason that he does that, and that is because he's looking for chemistry. He's looking for a spark, and if we can get Robert Thomas going again, maybe we can get Tarasenko going again as well. But that leads to another problem with Robert Thomas, and that is, okay, he's coming off 2 injuries. Do we need to worry about Robert Thomas being made of glass, or do you think, or do you think that he'll be fine?
We had that same question about Jaden Schwartz, and he's been relatively healthy the last year and a half, 2 years or so. I just think it's more about building muscle onto that frame more than anything else. Yeah, it's not so much he's made of glass. And you got to remember the last injury he was out with was a reported concussion. And that's something that size isn't really going to change. You've got big guys that get concussions, small guys that get concussions. So I'm not worried right now. Now, if we get 3 more years into the future and he is missed a significant portion of each of those seasons, yeah, whole different story. But I'm not too terribly worried about it right now. Because the other one, broken thumb, going awkward into the boards. Yeah, it's not like he's getting injuries that are because he's small or what have you. I think it's just a matter of fluky injuries, and he's going to be fine. Just get a little bit more muscle on that frame.
Yeah, the only time that we'll have to worry about Robert Thomas injuries is like a shoulder injury or a knee injury. Those are the 2 career killers. You can see it with, you see that with Carl Gunnarsson, that knee injury, career killer, he's done.
Well, shoulder injuries, Tarasenko still has not been the same.
He's been better than I thought he would, but you're right. He's not the same.
He still looks kind of, as I said, he still looks a little tentative on offense. He doesn't want like Panger when he was doing his I'm going to stay in the corner act. I mean, Panger was begging Tarasenko, get to the net, and he wasn't. And I don't know if he's still being a little worried about his shoulder and re-injuring it again, because we don't know a lot about the exact surgery that Tarasenko has. So I know Rutherford did an article with a couple of surgeons that they speculated as to what kind of recovery he's gone through and the possibility of re-injuring it. So you have to wonder if that's the case, but it kind of brings up another question here, and we've broached this a couple of times, and we were the Seattle question basically. So at the beginning of the season, we were thinking maybe Tarasenko is a guy you expose to Seattle because you don't think Seattle's going to take him and his contract and his injury history altogether. Then he came back, and Mason, you and I, can agree he looked good coming back, and he looked assertive, and now he's kind of pulled back a little bit, at least on offense. But it kind of begs the question here: if this is the Tarasenko we're going to get, and who is probably still going to be an okay player at the very least, I mean, he's never going to be a bad player. It kind of brings up the question again, where if you're Doug Armstrong and you're making your protection list, we've all done them at least once or twice ourselves. It usually comes down to, for that last forward spot, David Perron or Oscar Sundqvist that you want to protect. If that's the question, does the question of do you expose Tarasenko instead of those two come up? What do you guys think?
Oof.
Wags, go for it.
Thanks.
I need a second. I need a second
because that grenade right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a difficult question because I think at the beginning of the year you would say, oh yeah, protect David Perron and protect Oscar Sundqvist. But now you've got Oscar Sundqvist coming off of ACL injury. You've got David Perron, who has kind of disappeared the last couple of weeks of this season.
He has.
And then you've got Tarasenko, who we're not really sure what you've got. So really, are you going to sit there and say you want to protect any one of those guys? Because will Seattle take a rehabbing Oscar Sundqvist, who, yes, he is still relatively young, mid-20s. He can come back and play well. I still think the Blues should protect Sundqvist because he does, just like Schwartz, just like Thomas, brings a different energy to this team. And when he's out, there's a big difference. Tarasenko, you might be able to expose him because of his contract length and its size in a sense. Does Seattle want to pay that? I think Seattle's going to be smart. They're going to go after, if you're going to go after a guy that has a big contract, you're going to want to make sure that he is somebody that's going to produce for you. So I would almost sit there and say, yeah, you probably do expose Vladdy because Seattle probably won't take him. And if they do, I mean, are we really losing a whole lot right now? And I don't mean that in any way as a slight to Vlad because he's lived and died with this city. He's wanted to bring a cup to St. Louis. He did that. But it wasn't him per se that brought the cup here. That's the thing. Maybe he needs to go to a Seattle and feel like he's that guy again. Because I don't know if he feels like he's that guy anymore.
No.
He came here, he was the guy. Then Alex Pietrangelo came here. He became the guy and took this team to a different level. And now Ryan O'Reilly's the guy, and he's maybe not succeeding, but he's the guy that everybody looks to. Vladdy seems to have gotten lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Maybe he is okay with that happening where he goes to Seattle and becomes a guy that they go, oh, hey, this is the guy that we got. We want him on our team. That may change him, and that may be detrimental to the Blues. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think you do expose him in the hopes that Seattle looks at that price tag and goes, nah, I think we're okay.
And Mason, before you unleashed, I do want to. One of the reasons I thought of this question was watching Ryan O'Reilly today. I remember after the first, they showed a shot of O'Reilly after the first two goals on the bench, and he was pissed. He was slamming his stick, and he was just upset, and he was fed up, and he had enough of this shit. And then he goes out and scores, a hattie today, and basically spurs his team to come out of its funk and get a big win over Colorado today. That's a reason why he and not Tarasenko was named captain, because I don't know if Tarasenko has that in his locker to where he can just take the team on his back and lead them to promise. He's shown flashes of that in the past, but Tarasenko, the issue with the Blues, in the last couple of weeks, he's been part of the problem. He's not been the solution. And so if you're looking at, and if he's still sulking over not being named captain, hey, that's his issue. That's his deal. I don't think it's that, though. But I think it just, what O'Reilly did today kind of highlights, why I kind of think that maybe Tarasenko, it might be time to move on with him. What do you think, Mason?
Like you said, O'Reilly was pissed, goes out there, scores a goal. They actually panned the camera to the bench to see Tarasenko after the second goal. And you know what he did? He did this.
What? Shucks.
He's
and
like,
that's been his MO for the past couple of weeks. Like even Jim, I forget who it was. It was Jim Thomas or Jeremy Rutherford kind of noted that in the last few games, Tarasenko has looked like disinterested. Like he doesn't want. He'd rather be doing something else right now. I mean, today he kind of woke up a little bit, at least on his own zone. But it's concerning, Mason, that he is he has this in him where he gets sulky and he just doesn't produce.
Yeah, well, as a big player in the locker room, like he is, like a respected name, you don't want to see that guy sulking. That just brings the whole room down. You don't want to see, arguably the heart and soul of this franchise for ever since he was drafted. You don't want to see him being the guy who's like, oh, shucks. Oh, well, we just got scored on. So And this is not a diss to Vladdy, because obviously we all love him. We all love what he brought to this team, and he was a key piece of that Stanley Cup. He really was.
He was.
You expose him to Seattle, I think. You do. And it's not a personal thing. It's just you want to save that spot for somebody. You want to save that spot for somebody else. As many spots as you can get. And even then, I don't think he's not going to take being exposed personally. In fact, I think he would like to be selected by Seattle, if I'm perfectly honest. Because, like you said, he wants to be that big figure in the locker room, the franchise cornerstone like he was 2 years ago. He wants that again. And I have a feeling that if he is brought in that position, I think he does really well. That's where he plays his confident hockey. And I think if he does that with Seattle, then that's going to be a scary team if he's at the helm there. But yeah, it's just you want to save that spot for as many logical players as you get. You want to save it for Sundqvist. This is not, despite this, even though it's a knee injury, Oscar Sundqvist is going to come back, and he's going to come back just fine. All right, I don't see just because of how Sundqvist is as a player and everything he's gone through in his entire career, he'll be back. He'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. All right, there's like an 80-20 chance he won't be fine. So I'm not worried about that. But you want to save that spot for an Oscar Sundqvist, and even then, it is bait. Bait is bait. If they take him, worst case scenario, they take him. We lose $7.5 million for the next 3 years, which is pretty good.
Yes,
and best case scenario, he sticks around. Honestly, because I don't see a losing scenario there.
And maybe if he leaves, like this, Klim Kostin is opening to, secure at least a top 9 role, maybe a top 6 as other pieces kind of move around. And the thing with Tarasenko, if he does go to Seattle, yes, the spotlight's on him. He gets the James Neal treatment, that Vegas, got, where that he's this veteran, proven scorer with a big cap hit. The first jerseys, the first Kraken jerseys that go out will be blanks, and then you'll have Tarasenko Kraken jerseys going out, because he is a proven moneymaker. He moves jerseys. That's just the fact of the matter. He'd be a very interesting figurehead for them. But to be quite honest with you, I don't think Seattle takes Tarasenko if he is exposed, and freely available. They're going to probably look at a guy like a Vince Dunn, who is still young and is the analytics darling, but he does have a rep around the league, and he's still, would be under team control for a little while. He might be a guy they look at. They might look at a guy like Barbashev. I mean, Barbashev, he's a guy that, I don't think he quite provides the same spark as Sundqvist, but he's very similar. And, he's a guy that's some kind of, figure that he could be like a good third line center, for them, and he's got that ability. Maybe they go for a Sammy Blais, who has shown flashes of being, a very capable, NHL forward. He's a heat-seeking missile. He likes to throw the body. He'll get you a few scrappy goals here and there, but he's also cheap. So he doesn't have a big cap hit. So if Seattle is going to be, another repository like Vegas is for big contracts, like if they take on a David Clarkson type of a contract, if they take on James Neal, they take on, a Fleury type. I wouldn't be surprised if they take Tyler Johnson from Tampa Bay, because Tyler is from, the Pacific Northwest, and he knows the area, and you want that hometown, moxie. So that's, so Seattle, if you're Seattle and Ron Francis, you're thinking, okay, how much money do I have? And do I want to allocate $7.5 million to a questionable star, or do I want to spend a lot less and get a solid young puck moving defenseman in Vince Dunn, which you can debate the solid part, but that's the rep he has.
Well, I'm saying that's where we're going to disagree, because I think if Tarasenko's exposed, I think Seattle's taking him. Because how many star players of his caliber are going to be exposed in the draft?
There might be a couple there'll be a couple from some bigger teams that, like the Avalanche are going to have a conundrum on their hands for one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I don't envy them in that part, but I mean, I think Ron Francis will bite on that. I have a feeling, if he's exposed, I have a feeling Ron Francis would want to do something like that. Because, like you said, he is a jersey seller. You want to get the people in Seattle, right? They're already excited. My dad is telling me everything about Seattle. They are so excited for this damn team. Like, it's nuts. There's bumper stickers everywhere. You know, I don't know if you remember, they had like 1,500 limited jerseys or something like that, sold out just like that, and they sold them for like $3,000 each or something like that, and they just went out just like that. So that place is excited. You want to give them something to be excited about. And Tyler Johnson is another good one. I actually think that Tampa Bay is going to protect him. I think that they
they let him go on waivers for free for anyone to take, though. You know, so I think they want him gone, and they might be in a situation where they, you know, go to Seattle and say, hey, look, you might be taking him anyway, but, you know, how about a prospect just to make sure that you do, because we need the money because we're broke.
That makes sense. What if the Blues do something like that for Tarasenko?
Doug Armstrong won't. I don't.
Would you want? Okay, that's not what I asked. I asked, would you want that?
No, I don't think you need to get rid of Tarasenko. You don't need to go to Ron Francis and say, hey, we'll give you a pick if you take one of the best, you know, scoring forwards of the past decade and the cover star of NHL 17. I don't think you do. But I think you maybe just you throw him out there as, you know, maybe some interesting bait to protect some other players. That's basically what you're doing it for. You know, Wags, let's just say hypothetically, Seattle does take Tarasenko. What do you think that does to the Blues fan base, or what? How do you think they'll react?
I don't think it'll be as uproarious as people think, because this team has changed so much over the last few years. I mean, look what happened when Alex left. I mean,
there really wasn't that big. There wasn't that big of a protest after that.
It really wasn't.
Everyone was sad, but we all said, you know what? What we said as fans, we said, chase that bag, go do your thing, go win a cup with Vegas. Is what Blues fans said, and I think they're going to do the same thing with Tarasenko. They're going to be like, you know what? Go win a cup with Seattle. Go be the star player that we love you. Yes. I think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to be like, Doug Armstrong, you need to be fired. I already say that, but that's not why. You know, I'm not going to protest like fuck Doug Armstrong because of that. I would say that for many other things, not that. All right, you think this is going to piss me off? No, I've been cheering for this team for 10 years. I know this is nothing. All right, but I think, you know, same thing with Tarasenko. It's going to happen with, you know, same thing with Pietrangelo. Will probably happen with Tarasenko. I'm inclined to agree.
I'm going to sit there and say this too. This could be good for the Blues twofold. Either they expose Tarasenko, he gets taken, the money comes off the books, what have you, or they expose him, he doesn't get picked, and he goes, well, fuck you, I'm going to show you what you missed out on, and comes out like a man on fire. So it could work in the Blues' favor either way. So it could be a point that Doug Armstrong makes too. Like, he's going to fire a shot across the bow. He's going to say, hey, look, you're not good enough for us to protect. If you're here, show us why. If not, hey, good luck in Seattle. I mean, that it could work in the Blues' favor either way. Either you get the money or you get a renewed Vladimir Tarasenko who's like pissed off because he didn't get picked because the team in Seattle, who could pick anybody they want, didn't pick him.
And that is an excellent point and something I hadn't even thought of. But you're right; that might be a spark for him just to kind of, you know, get him going. And, you know, if he does go off like that, great. Then it's a victory. And knowing Tarasenko like we do, you know, when he came out of Russia, you know, and when the Blues picked him in the first round, there was some question over whether he would come over. But, you know, right away, I think Tarasenko quashed that right away and said he's coming over. He wants to compete. He wants to compete against the best. He's always had a chip on his shoulder a little bit, you know, to prove himself and prove himself as one of the best athletes in the world, you know, not, you know, and especially hockey. So maybe that is the spark that resets him and gets him back, you know, into that mentality. That's a good point.
I heard that.
Oh, what'd you hear?
The dogs barking.
They're from all the way across the lake. I mean, sound travels over the lake. Yeah, they're all the way across the lake, way behind me here, like right around here somewhere.
I'm glad that there was a pause there so we could have heard that, because that was like fucking amazing. I thought that was Wags, and I was like,
is it like drowning me out or
no?
It was just like a very little, but we heard it very clearly. You know, it was very funny. It's not like interfering. You know, that was weird. I was like, wait, where did that come from? I was wondering if it came from me, because I have some neighbors with some really annoying dogs, but. I mean, all right.
All right. Well, I want to get to a fan question here real quick. We kind of went off on a tangent talking about Tarasenko and the expansion draft in Seattle. But getting back to the Blues' current situation, we talk about how the Blues just aren't playing well. They get the good win today, but what happens if they go on a decent run? Joe, one of my co-hosts over on Crunch Time, said, with all this being said, if they finish the season on a decent run, does that change your perspective on if the Blues have the ability to go deeper in the playoffs? Let's say they roll off in a string of wins. They beat the Avalanche. They go in. Maybe they sweep Minnesota in the 3-game set, what have you. What if they end on a decent run and start to look better? Does that change your perspective on if this team can win in the playoffs?
You want this one, Mason?
Yeah, I'll take this one. It doesn't. The question isn't. The question isn't, posed at the end of the regular season. It's not, can this team go far in the playoffs? The question is right now. Do we want the team to go on a decent run? Do we want the team? Because nothing about this, I said this 1,000 times. Nothing about this season has told us that they can go on a good run. Nothing. All right, we won 3 solid games, 1 against Vegas and 2 against Minnesota. That is it. And right after that, we shat the bed against Colorado. So I'm sorry, I'm still not convinced. So the question is, if the Blues can go on a decent run and finish the season strong, it's not a question of, can the Blues make a run into the playoffs at the end of this regular season? Right now, we're wondering, is it worth it? Do we want to just go for a lottery pick right now because we flat out know that we're not good enough? That's the question. It's not waiting until the regular season. Of course we want them to go on a decent run. And of course we want them to go do well in the playoffs. We want that more than freaking anything. And this past offseason has proven that we're ready to do that. But our play on the ice just hasn't shown that. If we can go on a decent run at the last end of the regular season and do well in the playoffs, go for it. I would love that more than anything. But right now, we just got to ask ourselves, is it worth it right now? Can we replicate the same performance that we did against Colorado and carry that over to the next game and then the next game and then the next game? All right, I'm not fully convinced that we can do that.
Well, and it's going to be tough because, they've got 1 more against Colorado on Monday night. Then they've got 3 in Minnesota. That's going to be Wednesday, Thursday, and next Saturday. They get a little bit of a reprieve against Anaheim at home on May 3rd and 5th. Then they have to travel to Vegas, travel to the Kings for a game, and then wrap up at home against Minnesota. It's not an easy road.
We said the same thing about the Anaheim Ducks 4 weeks ago. We said, all right, you're playing Minnesota. Your reward is 2 easy games against Anaheim. We lost both of them.
But we got a point in one of them, so that helps.
We lost both of them. You say that like, oh, we're gonna wipe over them after we take care of these guys. We're going to wipe over them. That's exactly what we said.
But that one point is what got us in the playoffs right now. That
don't care. We're not going to. You cannot talk about any game against any opponent and say it's an easy win. It doesn't work anymore.
Nope. It really doesn't. And
it doesn't.
It really doesn't. And I'm looking at the standings right now. And is it safe to say that there's really a disparity between like the top 9 teams and the rest of the league? Look at the standings. In the Central, you've got Carolina 67, Florida 65, Tampa Bay 64. Obviously, all 3 making the playoffs. And the fourth place team sitting at 54 points. Yes. In the East, you've got Pittsburgh at 65, Washington 64, the Islanders at 63, Boston's at 60, so that's a pretty competitive division. But then you got the North, Toronto 63, Winnipeg 57, Edmonton 56, then the drop-off of 49 to Montreal. In the West, Vegas 68, Colorado 66, Minnesota 63, and then the drop-off to the Blues at 46. We're just really setting up to have really about 7-8 teams that really have a legitimate shot of going deep, and then everybody else. And it goes to your point. Do we want to see the Blues go through that? Even if they go on a decent run and get into the playoffs a little bit easier than where we're at now, do we really want to see them get destroyed by a Vegas or a Colorado? Or do we want to just count our losses and let this team rest?
Well, that's exactly the other point, because there is a big difference between there's a huge difference between all these teams and then everyone else. Okay, this is going to be one of those playoffs where if your team is out of a playoff spot, this is going to be the most entertaining playoffs to watch. If you're like a Detroit fan or a Sens fan, you are going to love these playoffs because there are so many teams that have the potential of winning. You know, there's no real clear-cut winner. We thought it would be Toronto, and then that happened against freaking Canucks. And then we thought the same thing about the Avalanche, and they did this. They did this game. They lost to the St. Louis Blues, who has been the single most disappointing team this entire season, next to, ironically, Boston. So the Blues absolutely have a chance of winning. They absolutely do if they stick to their guns and play Blues hockey. But I'm still not convinced that they have that motivation.
I'm right there with you. And unfortunately, Tom's cell connection decided not enough stream. It had enough StreamYard for today. So
rest in peace, Tom.
Yeah, rest in peace. Remember, don't be a chump and play to the whistle. We'll get to that. Don't worry, Tom. We'll have the excitement of play to the whistle at the very end.
Of course.
Glad that he was able to jump in. Let's just keep talking a little bit more about what's going on with the Blues right now. Obviously, like we said, a tough schedule upcoming. I just don't even know where to go with this because it's.
Let's start with
so
the no easy games once again. Let's start with the no easy games. Why aren't these teams? Why didn't we beat Anaheim? The reason we didn't beat Anaheim is because we flat out gave up. You know, we let Anaheim. I think Anaheim scored first in both those games, and we said, "Oh, we are screwed," and we just crawled in a shell for the rest of the game. That's why we lost those two games. That's why the Blues have been losing most of their games this year, is because they let themselves get scored on first, and then they're like, oh, shit, look at this predicament now. So I'm not sure where to take this either because we're all pissed. This team is coming off of a win. Signals. This is coming off a win, and we're still pissed.
Well, we talked a little bit about this on last week's episode with Corey. And for me, it's you look at it and you go, this team, when they face just a little bit of adversity, they fold. Now, that's not the case 2 years ago in 2019. Case in point, the hand pass game. That's the biggest adversity this team has faced in the last 10 years, probably. And what happened? They said, we're coming back next game. We're going to play that game, and we're going to win. They left it in the past and moved on. Well, now they can't even let a small thing go in a game and move past it. One single itty-bitty bit of adversity, and everything falls apart.
They fall apart.
They do. And now
like
today you look at it, and it's like, okay, you get down 2-0. Well, they battle back. But that's because Ryan O'Reilly, like we said earlier, stepped up and said, I'm done with this. So do you see them actually being able to continue this down the road? Because, look, I'll say this. A couple weeks ago when Binnington had the "yeah, we're coming" quote, I was all for it. I know you weren't, but I was all for it because it showed me he had confidence. This team had confidence. They were getting ready to go on a run. It still was a tough schedule, but it had shades of 2019. Well, then the rest of the schedule happened. And now we're seeing this and we go, okay, Ryan O'Reilly put the team on his back. He basically showed them how to win. They came together. Hell, Mike Hoffman scored a goal and showed emotion today. Did you see the reaction after
he was like excited. He did the whole boom thing.
Yes.
You know, he was really excited. This is the most emotion we've seen out of him all season.
The only emotion I've seen out of him this season. So now you look at it and you go, okay, O'Reilly's working hard, carrying the team on his back. You're even getting guys like Hoffman showing emotion. Do we dare to believe that this team may have turned a corner, or do we have to have more consistency before we can actually believe again?
We need more consistency. Way more consistency. Remember, the Blues lost. How many games did we lose before that? Like 5? Or did they have a 5-game losing streak?
They're on a 3-game losing streak, I believe.
3-game losing streak. Whatever. Losing streaks are losing streaks.
It felt like 12.
It felt like 12. We were on this losing streak, and we do one win game, and we're supposed to say, "Oh, we could be consistent the rest of the season." Frank, right off, buddy. All right, We just came off a 3-game losing streak, and we barely beat the Colorado Avalanche tonight. You know, the Blues absolutely should not have won this game. So don't even try to tell me, oh, we need more consistent. Or should we believe? Should we believe we beat the Colorado Avalanche after losing to them 3 games in a row? We should believe again? No! What are you new here?
But hold on though. You got to look at this though. Okay, they come off of the 3-1 victory against Vegas. Okay, they had the same issues against Vegas that they'd had against Colorado. They sucked. They came the 6-1 loss on that Monday night. I was at that game. They just looked listless. Mm-hmm. Then they came out and then they played a game just kind of like today, where they said we've had enough. We're gonna play our best, and they went out there and they beat one of the best teams in the West. And then they backed it up with a 9-1 shellacking of Minnesota. Then they had the game on that Saturday against the Minnesota where, like, that's a game that the Blues should have lost too. And yet they found a way to win that game. So at that point, you've got a 3-game winning streak. You've beaten one of your nemesises. Nemesi? I don't know what the plural form of nemesis. Yeah, nemesis. Make up words now. But then you go out and you beat a team that you haven't seen a whole lot of. They're still a good team. They were sitting third, and it puts you in range of getting into that third slot too. So you had confidence. And then for some reason, it's just like Tom said, they almost have a mountain to climb against Colorado. They come out, they're on that 3-game winning streak. The game's 1-1 going into the second period. They have the second period of hell, give up 3 goals, but then they fight back and make it close. Then that game against Arizona. That's Arizona. They get up to a 2-0 lead, and then they blow it. And then Colorado again. It's maddening, and you don't want to believe, but maybe this was a little bit of a step up that mountain. This isn't us cresting the mountain. This is us taking that first step to maybe getting over the hump. It's going to take a playoff victory, a playoff series victory, I think, for the mountain to be achieved against Colorado, and no pun intended, being the Avalanche and all. But you know, if they get the first step here,
shut up.
Maybe they take another step on Monday. Maybe it's not a dominant win, but maybe it's a 2-1 victory or something to that effect, where they take another step up that mountain. Then they don't play in the rest of the year. They get into the playoffs and they win a playoff series against Colorado. That right there can be a believable moment where maybe they crest that hill, but it is going to come down to that consistency, and it really comes down to Monday night. What kind of team do we see Monday night? Regardless of injuries, regardless of anything else, what team comes out in the first period, and what do we see that entire game?
Well, if the Blues want to show me consistency, they win 5 straight in 5 tough games. That's how they can prove to me that they're consistent. I don't want 3 like they did, like I said, the Vegas and then 2 Minnesota games. Not like 3. I want 5 solid games that are wins against tough opponents. That's what I want. If they can prove that, I will believe again.
Okay.
I will.
You heard it here, St. Louis Blues. You heard it here, St. Louis Blues. 5 straight victories.
Okay, not 5 straight victories. 5 really solid efforts.
Oh,
all right.
okay.
If you lose one because you lose one, oh well, teams lose. We know teams lose. If you give me 5 solid efforts, I'll believe again. But until then, I'm still on the train of go for a draft pick. I'm still on that train because I don't want, like I've said 1,000 times. Once again, I don't want to go into the playoffs to get bent over a table for 4 straight games against Colorado or Vegas. Most likely Colorado now. It's always been Vegas. Now it's Colorado. We got that shit to look forward to. That 5 solid efforts.
5 solid efforts.
I don't think that's too hard because every other team has given 5 solid efforts. Even Detroit has given 5 solid efforts, for being Detroit. They've given 5 solid efforts. So that means that equals 1 win. But, they play 60 minutes. We don't.
But see, that's kind of been the Blues' MO for the last decade. I mean, like you said, you've watched this team for the last 10 years. You could probably count on your hand how many times this team has played a full, solid 60-minute game. I mean,
2019, back half of 2019 had a fair bit of those. But other than that, no. And non-playoffs I'm talking, but no. I can't think of other than the 2018-19 season and the 15-16 season. Any other, I cannot, each of those seasons had maybe 5 60-minute efforts in each of those. Out of 82 games, that's terrible.
And you're not going to sit there and say that 82 of those games need to be played 60 minutes. I mean, you're going to have off nights, but you need to have a majority of games played at a high level.
You need 60% of your games. You need 60, even 70% of your games have to be full 60 minutes. All right. We are lucky to get 10%. We're lucky.
So where does that come from though? Is that the coaching? Is it the management? Is that the ownership? What is it?
It's the mood in the locker room. They go down. They get scored on all the time. There's a reason why the Blues have the most comeback victories this year out of any team. It's because they go down all the time and they just find a way to win somehow. You know, it's the mood in the locker room. They lose. They say they pack it up way too early. You know, they do that all the time. Okay, they need like you go down by 1 goal, whatever. Keep playing. Who cares if you go down what? If you go down 2, still don't give up. You go down 3, still don't give up. Even if you go down 5, if you go down 8, let's say 8-0. If you go down 8-0, you know, fine, give up. I don't care. Like it's 8-0. You're not winning the game. I don't care. Just get on the freaking bus. But.
I know, man. I know.
You're paid handsomely. Figure it out.
It's pain, man. It's pain. And like I said, this is coming off of a victory.
Yes.
So that's kind of what it is. A 5-3 victory today against the Colorado Avalanche. They came back from 2-0 down. They blew a lead again in the second period, but then they found a way to win. Blow a lead again, and.
I forgot about that.
You did, right? You forgot. They were up 3-2. They blew a lead in the second period. The second period, you know, the minus 19 goal differential period.
The Blues can go down 2-0 in a game and still blow a lead. Do you realize that? The Blues can go down 2-0 in a game and still blow a lead. Does that not blow anybody's mind?
No, it blows. No, it blows everybody's mind. I mean, like, it's serious. Like, to your point, though, this is a team that has the most comeback wins in hockey. Shit. So they have the ability to score goals. That's the mind-boggling part of all this. They have the ability to score goals. They have the ability to stop goals from going in, because even if they go down early, they still have the ability to get back into games because of goaltending. Like, there's like bits and pieces here and there. You know what? Honestly, you know what we need? We need Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, to create a recipe like he did with the Blues defense earlier this year before the season started about really what kind of ingredients this Blues team has and how to properly mix them together to get an actually good result. Instead of having some shit come out of the oven, actually have like some Hawaiian rolls come out of the oven. Like he needs to do something like that to where bring the ingredients of the Blues together to create something beautiful and magical versus kind of what the, you know, turd sandwich that we have kind of on our plates right now.
Let's make Guy our defensive coordinator, our defensive coach. Let's do that. Or even better, let's make him the general manager. He can't be that much worse than Armstrong, right?
He would be persistent.
No matter who you put in that GM spot, he's going to be better. All right, it doesn't matter. You could put used tissue, potato chip, and Penny from SpongeBob. Yeah, they didn't do a better job than Doug Armstrong.
Oh, I don't know about that, but Guy would be persistent.
You really think that a Penny?
But Doug Armstrong's brought in Braden Shen. Doug Armstrong's brought in Ryan O'Reilly. Yes, we bitched about him last year. Not me per se, but Justin Falk was brought in by Doug Armstrong. Yes, he's had some misses. Right now, Torrey Krug isn't necessarily a home run. Yes, some of these other guys that he's brought in haven't been great. Right, but still, I mean, he's brought in these guys. So it's not like he's driven this team to the ground, but he is doing a lot of things that he did when he was in Dallas, especially near the end of his tenure there, where you start to bring in overpriced guys, maybe some bloated contracts, maybe guys that don't fit the system that the coach wants to run. Weird. That works. This is kind of like the signaling of maybe this is the beginning of the end for a guy like a Doug Armstrong. And if that's the case, is there someone that you target to bring in, or Do you look internally at a guy like, I don't know, maybe an Al McInnes as a guy that would be a good GM potential candidate?
Not Brett Hull. Not him. Not him. I love him, but no.
He would get everybody on the team wasted. So, that might work in negotiations. No, that's exactly it.
He'll
might work in
negotiations. What would be a good contract for Jordan Binnington? 7x7. He would be just wasted in the negotiation. It would not be well. But no, Brett Hull, stay right there. Yeah, but my logic is: do you really think a penny, a chip, and a used napkin will give Jordan Binnington a 6x6? I don't think so. Hence, penny chip used napkin is a better GM. That's my logic. That's my only logic.
That's fine. I still think,
not a good contract. Still not on that bus. I don't care if he had a career game. What happened next game?
I'm not worried about a career game. I'm not worried about career games. You got to remember, you're paying him for services provided, which I know that's how every contract works. You're paying him for services provided. What other options do you have for the next couple of years? Yes, you can sit there and say, oh, you can go out and get a Frederik Andersen. Well, no, maybe not. He might be re-upped by the Leafs. What other goaltenders out there may hit the open market that would at least be comparable to a guy like Jordan Binnington? I'm not sitting here saying he's a world-saving goaltender, but you've got to get from here to there, and that's 3 years, okay? 3 years to see what you got in Joel Hofer or Colton Ellis or maybe even an Evan Fitzpatrick or a Ville Husso. I'm not saying Ville Husso's the answer. Not saying that at all. But you've got 3 years that you need to have someone in net that has some pedigree, that has some talent and ability. That's what this contract is about. It's about paying for services rendered, and it's about getting to the next step. After year 3, if he performs at a level that is worthy of him continuing on that contract, that's great. That's a win for the Blues. If not, he has, a partial no trade clause, but he can be traded. And we've seen what Doug Armstrong's been able to do if he's still here in 3 years. Yes, you may have to package a first-round pick to get him out of here, but he's been shown to be able to do that. And guess what? In 3 years, I would bet you $1 million that Toronto is still probably looking for a goaltender and might just take a former Stanley Cup winner in Jordan Binnington and bring him back home to potentially win a Stanley Cup. So I get it. The money's not great. The no trade clause for the first 3 years.
That's not it. The money's fine. The length is ridiculous.
But you've got the ability to move on after 3 years.
I'm okay with a 7x3. Honestly, I am. I'm okay with a 6x3. I'm okay with a 7x3. I'm not okay with a 6. 6 years is too long. Because when a player has a no trade clause, how often are they really traded?
I mean, it's a good question. I'm not entirely sure.
Patrick Hornqvist is the last one I can think of.
I'm sure there's more, though. I'm sure there's more. But once again, if he plays up to the contract, then you've got him locked up for the next few years. But if he doesn't, you still have the option to get rid of him. And I think that's the thing. You're looking at it as a whole, and really you can look at it as a 6x3. And then maybe it's another 6x3 if he plays to his potential. And I think that's the thing. We got to get away from this big, and you see it more. And the NHL is not the NFL. The NFL is just royally screwed when they come to paying their players because you can cut anybody at any point in time. But when people look at the NFL, they say, oh man, this guy got a 7-year, $175 million contract. Well, no, he's got a year contract worth $14 million, and he just so happens to have them lined up 7 years in a row. They can cut him at any time. You have to look at the NHL contract. It's the same way when it comes to how long a guy may be here. I would say break it into 2 different contracts. It's a 6x3 now. It's a 6x3 in 3 years. 6x3 now, he's got a no trade clause. The next one that comes along, it's a partial no trade clause, so you have the ability to move past if you need him. But that's why I'm okay with it. Not in love with it, but I'm okay with it. If we get 3 years from now and Joel Hofer or Colton Ellis is just set the world on fire, then maybe Binnington's a backup at $6 million for a year while they find a way to move on. They found a way to move past Jake Allen, which I wasn't a huge fan of myself, but they found a way to move on from Jake Allen, who was a high-priced backup. Yes, Binnington's a little bit higher priced, but I think in 3 years, the cap's going to be higher. Teams are going to be looking still. Toronto. Somebody's going to pay to bring him in. So I look at it, I break it down a little bit further than just the chunk. I still get your frustration with it though. So I'm not sitting here saying you're wrong. I don't see Jordan Binnington lasting 6 years here. So I get it.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, to be fair, and I don't want to see a single person saying Blues fan reacts as a Binnington hater because I absolutely love him. I absolutely love him, and I'm glad that he's on this team. I'm not glad that he's on the team for potentially 6 years. You know, it's nothing against him, just like it's nothing against Tarasenko, but
I want to see Hofer and Ellis here. I do as well.
I do too.
I think the hype around them and what they have both been doing in the minor league system has been exactly what the Blues needed. Mm-hmm. But we've also seen in the past the Blues have had those high-end prospects in goal that maybe start off good and then kind of fade into existence pretty quickly. I mean, really think about it. When's the last time a really legitimate Blues prospect in goal really made it? I'm going to say Jake Allen. Because he was a hotshot young goaltender. He did come up through the Blues system, and he did play well. He won a Stanley Cup with the Blues, albeit not the starting goaltender, but his contributions cannot be overlooked. But before that,
right,
Curtis Joseph has to be the last younger goaltender. He's the last younger goaltender that really the Blues were able to develop and actually make into a pretty decent goaltender. So I'm not going to hang my hat on Hofer and Ellis, and that's why I'm glad we have at least some sort of consistency in that. But I'm praying that Joel Hofer or Colton Ellis we've had on this show before, by the way, will eventually ascend.
Tearing it up, by the way, Colton Ellis. I think we might have bad luck when it comes to the Blues. We do not have bad luck when it comes to our interviewees. All right, we are batting 1,000 right now. That was pretty impressive. He goes on our show next month. He breaks a shutout record and a win record. Okay.
And look at Jake Neighbors. He had a sweet ass goal the other night as well.
Oh my God!
So yeah,
did you see Connor Bernard's goal today? Disgusting.
Look,
I saw that and I immediately tweeted out he's going to break Gretzky's records. I'm confident.
I played hockey for the last 15, 16 years or so, and every time I see some of these highlight reel goals, I go outside, I look at my stuff, and I go, what the fuck are you doing? You're nowhere near this level. Stop kidding yourself, because some of the stuff these kids are doing, and yes, they're kids. I'm not a kid anymore, but it's just unreal. I mean, the sticks between the legs and just all of that stuff. I'm like, I'd kill myself trying to do that. I'm just going to stick to my David Backes play and just let the puck hit me.
You're David Backes play. That's who you are.
I'm David Backes. I stand in front of the net, let the pucks hit me and clean up the garbage.
See, my coaches called me a Tom Wilson, so that's who I was. So I can't say that I'm happy about that, but I mean, he's
dude got paid, got a ring.
He got a ring. Yes, he got a ring. I was Tom Wilson. So,
all right, man. Well, we're running a little long here, about a minute, a little over an hour here. Yeah, we talked about the Blues win. We bitched a lot more about the Blues win than I thought we would as well.
We bitched more than praised, didn't we?
Yeah, we certainly did. So, any final thoughts before we head out? Anything new on the horizon on Blues Fan Reacts?
Maybe Jason will make an appearance tonight. I don't know. It's looking like it.
Oh boy!
Oh gosh!
Make sure you check it out over at Blues Fan Reacts over on Twitter and anywhere else you can find it. Make sure you check out Crunch Time, my other podcast. We run nightly shows Monday through Friday at 9:00 on Facebook and YouTube, talking about sports in general. And really, make sure you go to check out our podcast here on Bluenotes Pod, because we just shoot the shit, man. We're just a regular, normal podcast, and we love talking about the Blues, whether it's good or bad. And we really can't do that, because without you guys, there's no Blues Fan Reacts, there's no Wags, there's no Tom Franklin, there's no Hockey Podcast Network, and there's no Blue Notes Pod. So as Tom Franklin would like to say, don't be a chump. And Mason,
play to the whistle.
A reminder that you can follow Blue Notes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Blue Notes Pod. I'm the voice of the Blues, Tom Calhoun. Jeremy Boyer, play us out.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk covering every team in the NHL. New episodes every Monday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.